The Galactic Council was a place of peace. Inside a great hall of glass and metal, the leaders of over 200 alien species sat in long rows. They wore colorful robes, strange armor, or floated in clouds of light. This was where wars were avoided and agreements were made. That day, the air felt different. A soft bell rang. The doors opened. And for the first time in history, the humans arrived. They entered quietly. No grand music, no loud voices. Just 10 humans walking in perfect line, wearing black suits. They smiled politely. Their eyes, calm and sharp, looked around the hall. The other species whispered among themselves. Such small creatures. They look peaceful. Are they really ready for this council? Only a few stayed silent. Old beings who had lived through wars and empires. They didn't speak, but they watched the humans very closely. The humans reached their seats and sat down. Their leader, a woman named Ambassador Raina Cole, stood up. Her voice was soft but strong. "We come in peace," she sighed, as new friends ready to learn and share. The council clapped. The welcome was warm. Everyone relaxed. But not Evler, the representative of the Varnak Empire, a species known for strength and war. He stared at Raina. His instincts didn't like her smile. Too perfect. Too still. Later that day, the Varnak called for a private meeting with the humans. Inside the dark meeting room, Raina stood alone before 6 Varnak guards and Evler himself. "We tested your kind," Evler said. "Your world is full of war, blood, and chaos. How are you diplomats?" Raina smiled. "We had to survive. That taught us patience. You hide your claws. We don't need claws to be dangerous." There was silence. Then Evler stepped closer. He tried to scare her. Growled, his body twice her size, his breath hot and heavy. Any normal species would back away, but Raina did not move. She simply looked up at him and said, "If you ever attack Earth, you won't see the war begin. You'll only see the end." Something in her voice made Evler stop. It was not anger, not threat. It was truth, and it chilled his bones. The next morning, the Varnak Empire withdrew a military project near human space. Quietly, no one knew why. But the council noticed. In the days that followed, the humans did little. They sat in meetings. They listened. They smiled. Other species tried to study them. They looked for signs of weapons, secrets, or lies. But all they found were friendly diplomats, curious scientists, and polite explorers. Yet strange things began to happen. A criminal gang tried to hijack a human cargo ship. The next day, that gang vanished. No bodies, no signals, nothing when asked. The humans said, "Oh, we had no idea. Must have been a navigation issue." Another time, an information broker tried to sell secret human data. Hours later, all his systems fried. His account deleted, his base empty. No proof. Just silence. Whispers grew louder. Humans are too quiet. They see too much. They're not diplomats, they're hunters, hiding their teeth. One evening, Counselor Droxin, a wise and ancient being from the Kaler species, met with a human diplomat named Agent Mace. They walked through the gardens of the space station. "You confuse many of us," Droxin said. "You act friendly, but something hides under your skin, a predator's calm." Mace smiled. "That's an interesting word, predator." Droxin looked at him. "You don't deny it?" "No," Mace said, "but we prefer another word." "And what is that?" "Survivor." Back in the council hall, as lights dimmed and meetings ended, the aliens watched the humans leave, still smiling, still silent. But now, they looked different. Not weak. Not loud. Just. Watching, the way a lion watches from the grass, the way a shadow waits before the strike, and slowly. The galaxy began to understand. The humans didn't come to play politics. They came to study the field, to map every piece, to prepare, because one day the masks would fall. And when that day came, The galaxy would remember the silent arrival. Asterisk for many days after the humans arrived. The Galactic Council felt the same. Polite talks, slow debates, endless rules. But something had changed. No one could point to it exactly. The stars still shined. The halls still echoed with speeches. But deep down, the oldest members of the council felt it in their bones. It was the silence, not the usual silence of space. This was something deeper. The silence of creatures who did not need to speak loudly to be dangerous. The silence of humans. They were always there, in every meeting, on every committee, in every quiet hallway, smiling, listening, watching, always polite, never raising their voices, always offering peace and trade and ideas. Yet no one could ignore the weight of their presence. Some called them slow talkers. Others called them clever apes. But the more the galaxy saw of humans, the more the names changed. They started calling them ghosts with smiles. One by one, different species tried to understand humanity better. The Trinari opened trade doors. The Drax sent cultural observers. The Varen, ever curious, tried to access human military records. Within minutes, their network systems crashed. The files self-erased. The agents behind the attempt disappeared without a trace. When asked, the humans smiled and said, "Must be a bug in your system." Of course, no one believed them, but no one dared to ask again. On Earth, humans had mastered survival. Not just with weapons or strength, but with patience, lies, and strategy. They fought predators not by running, but by trapping. They learned how to read danger in a blink. And when cornered, they didn't scream, they calculated. Now in the council, they used the same skills. Their ambassadors were kind, but too calm. Their soldiers, when shown in videos, were always just watching, not fighting, not training loudly like other species. Just watching. As if waiting for something. Behind the scenes, their diplomats visited one race after another. They spoke softly, listened carefully. They gave small gifts, maps, data, little favors, and asked nothing in return. But over time, those species became allies, not by war, not by fear, by influence, by quiet pressure, like vines wrapping around the roots of an old tree. A small mining world owned by the Rellan species suddenly stopped paying tribute to a pirate lord who had ruled the Outer Rim for years. The pirate lord, angry, sent 3 ships to the planet. He expected surrender. Instead, nothing came back. Not a signal. Not a ship. Not a sound. Only empty space where his fleet used to be. The pirate networks buzzed with fear. Who did it? They asked. Was it the humans? No one had proof. But deep down, everyone already knew the answer. Yet, when the council called for investigation, the human ambassador simply shrugged. "Oh, that's terrible news. Pirates are such a problem, aren't they?" Some council members laughed nervously. Others said nothing. Only one alien dared to speak openly. Councillor Juruk, from the aggressive Altari species, stood during a session and pointed a long, clawed finger toward the humans. "You act like sheep," he said, "but I see the wolf under your skin." The hall fell silent. Reyna Cole, the human ambassador, stood slowly. She looked around the room with calm eyes, her expression unreadable. "Do wolves build alliances?" She asked. Jurok didn't answer. "Do wolves offer peace, trade, and friendship?" Again silence. Then she smiled. A soft, polite smile. "But not a warm one. We came here with open hands. But if you fear us, perhaps you should ask yourselves why." After that, no one challenged the humans in public again. Still, the council watched them closely. And the humans? They kept smiling, kept offering help, kept acting small. But species across the galaxy started pulling old war files. Reading Earth's history, they read about a world that had almost killed itself in nuclear fire. About creatures who wiped out predators larger and faster than them, using only fire, traps, and teamwork. About wars that lasted decades, fought in forests, deserts, and ice, not with strength, but with patience and strategy. They saw a planet where diplomacy had always been a tool, not a belief. Where survival meant knowing when to be quiet and when to strike without warning. And slowly, the truth started to take shape. Humans were not pretending to be strong. They were pretending to be weak. Their true power wasn't in their weapons, it was in their silence. Their calm, their waiting. And behind every kind smile, behind every soft word, was something cold and patient, not evil, not cruel. Just focused. Because in the end, humans didn't need to roar to rule. They only needed to wear the right mask and let the galaxy lower its guard. And by the time the galaxy understood, the humans were already in the room. The Galactic Council had seen thousands of species rise and fall. Some came with fire and loud threats. Others arrived singing songs of peace. A few were clever, some were ruthless, and most were forgettable. But none were like the humans. It was not their ships. It was not their technology. It was not even their weapons, though those who had seen glimpses of human military design said little and never smiled again. It was the way humans moved through the galaxy. Quiet, sharp, like wolves in business. Suits. They didn't threaten. They didn't boast. They walked into meetings, smiled, and let others talk. And yet, by the time the meeting was over, no one could remember what they themselves had said. Only that the humans had agreed, offered help, and somehow gained more ground. One by one, galactic corporations invited human consultants. Governments welcomed human advisors. Security councils added human analysts. Within 3 years of their arrival, Earth had placed a soft hand on almost every major decision in council space, and no one had seen it coming. On paper, humans had no real power. In reality, they controlled the room, and they never needed to raise a weapon. They came in suits, not armor, with briefcases, not blasters. Their strongest weapons were questions. Simple questions, but deadly. Why are you paying so much for defense when we can provide satellite protection for half the price? Have you considered how much trade you lose by avoiding human shipping lanes? Wouldn't you rather be our friend before someone else claims your sector? No force. Just ideas, just friendly suggestions. But species who refused these suggestions often found things began to go wrong. A mining system would lose power. Political party would suddenly collapse under scandal. A long-forgotten debt would be called in with interest. And always, the humans would return with help, with smiles, with solutions. And the ones who accepted them were never heard again. The ones who didn't vanished into silence. Many species tried to understand what was happening. They sent spies into human diplomatic circles. They tracked Earth's cargo routes. They even bugged human embassies with advanced listening tech. Nothing worked. No recordings, no signals, no leaks. Human secrets didn't get stolen. They dissolved. It was as if the humans had studied the galaxy's entire playbook before they arrived and rewritten it without telling anyone. Even the few species that had once ruled parts of the galaxy, the ancients, the once mighty, now sat in silence when human diplomats entered the room. One of them, Counselor Al-Kesh of the Rel Dominion, had fought in 5 galactic wars and crushed dozens of rebellions. He watched the humans with quiet eyes and said only once, in private, "They are not playing the game, they are the game." Even the language the humans used was strange. They called their strategy soft power. But there was nothing soft about it. It was cold, it was calculated, it was control without ownership, victory without blood, a kind of war that left no wreckage, only agreements. And when they needed to, the humans used another tactic even older than war: patience. They could wait years, even decades, for the right moment. They did not need to move quickly. The galaxy was already moving for them, but despite Their calm. There were whispers of something darker. A secret branch. A part of human civilization. No one ever met directly. They were called Obsidian. No official records. No faces. Only quiet stories from those who got too close to Earth's secrets. A financial system that collapsed in a single night. A corrupt general who simply disappeared from his own starship. An AI virus that spread across an entire moon, only to vanish the moment a human vessel entered orbit. All of them had one thing in common before the end. Someone had tried to challenge humanity. And after the end, someone had received a small black card. No message. No name. Just a symbol. A black circle. With teeth. Even now no one knew who or what Obsidian really was. Maybe it was a myth. Maybe it was the real face behind the human smile. But whatever the truth, one thing became very clear across council space. You did not make humans angry, not because they would destroy you, but because they wouldn't need to. You just stop existing in ways you couldn't explain, and when people asked what happened, all the humans would do is shrug, offer help, and smile. Some said this made them monsters. Others said it made them survivors. But one ambassador from a cold water world said it best during a secret meeting. They are not monsters, they are gardeners. They remove threats the way a gardener removes weeds. Carefully, quietly, and completely. And as the galaxy watched humans build alliances, reshape trade, and slowly draw the map of power around themselves, a quiet understanding spread. The galaxy had not welcomed a new friend. It had invited something older, deeper, and more dangerous than war. A species that had mastered diplomacy not to make peace, but to win without ever firing a shot. Predators in suits, and the galaxy had just let them in the door. Asterisk at the edge of council space, where the light of the great stars fades into the black sea of the unknown. There was a system called Kovarin 9. It was quiet, distant, and mostly forgotten. Until the humans built a listening post there. The station was small. Just a few modules connected in orbit above a cold planet. It wasn't military. It wasn't rich. It just listened. Signals, patterns, whispers from deep space. Harmless, unimportant, or so it seemed. But to the Grell Syndicate, a ruthless network of mercenaries and smugglers, the station looked like easy prey. Their leader, Vorlex, was a creature born in darkness. A half-mechanical predator who had taken down outposts with nothing but silence and fear. He had heard of humans, of course. Everyone had. But he didn't believe the stories. They're all shadow and no teeth, he said when his lieutenants warned him. Vorlex was not impressed by smiles. He respected power, visible, loud, brutal power. And he believed that the humans had none. So he sent a team of 20 elite raiders. They jumped into the Kovarin 9 system on a cold morning. No warning, no message. Just black ships in silence. They expected confusion. They expected begging. They expected the humans to panic and surrender. But what they found was nothing. The human station did not answer their hails. There were no signs of life. The lights were off. No alarms. No defense systems. Just cold, empty silence. The raiders docked with ease, suited up, entered the airlock, and that was the first mistake. They moved in with weapons drawn, confident and laughing. The corridors were still, no signs of struggle. No crew. Where is everyone? One of them said. Another chuckled, ran off. Left it for us. They split into groups as trained. One went to the control room, one to engineering, one to storage, one to communications. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Then 15. No reports came back, only static. Vorlex, watching from orbit, grew impatient. He hailed the raiders. No response. He sent a warning signal, still silence. He sent 2 more drop teams. Never even reached the airlock. Because at that exact moment, something changed. The human station dead just seconds ago. Lit up. Not like a machine turning on, more like a trap springing shut. The orbiting raider. Ships saw the signal spike too late. Their systems froze. Their engines failed. Their power cores drained. One by one, in perfect sequence, Vorlek shouted, ordered a retreat, screamed for his ships to jump. But space did not listen. His fleet blinked out on every radar. No explosion. No debris. No cry for help. Just nothing. As if they had never been there. And far away, in the secure halls of the Galactic Council, a message was delivered. Not a threat, not an attack log. Just a report. 1 page. Short. Clear. Incident at Kovarin 9. Unknown mercenary activity neutralized. Human personnel unharmed. Investigation complete. Case closed. The message was delivered to the Council Security Committee, a group of 12 species who oversaw peace across the stars. They read the report 3 times. There was no anger in the message, no request for sanctions, no accusation, only cold, perfect professionalism. That night, the committee held an emergency meeting, behind closed doors, with no recordings. And no humans present. Do we believe they didn't know about this? One alien asked. Another, older and wiser, shook their head. The humans knew. The humans always know. Then why not admit it? Because they didn't want to send a warning. Silence. Then what was this? A lesson. Far out in the black, the Kovarin station powered down again. Its lights faded. Its signals quieted. It went back to listening, but this time, no one dared come close. The Grell Syndicate, once bold, erased all plans involving human territories. They changed routes, burned records, whispered apologies to the Void, and Vorlek's number. One never saw him again. Some said he was alive, hidden, broken in mind. Others said he was taken, but most believed the simplest answer, that he was gone. Because the humans don't warn, they don't threaten, they don't even fight. Unless you make the first mistake, and then, you don't get a second chance. The galaxy had always been full of illusions. Some species wore power like armor, loud and shiny. Some masked fear with anger. Others spoke of peace but plotted in shadows. Everyone played roles. Everyone had secrets, but none more than the humans. For years they had moved like whispers in the halls of the Galactic Council. Always present, always polite. They brought offers of trade, technology, diplomacy. They shook hands, they helped. They smiled. And beneath those smiles, they watched. At first, the galaxy didn't notice. Then they began to suspect. And finally, after Kovarin 9, they began to understand. The humans were not what they appeared. Understanding came slow, and many still chose to ignore the truth. They saw the mask, and told themselves it was the face, until someone tried to rip it off. It happened quietly, as many terrible things do. A group of lesser-known species had grown jealous of human influence. Their own economies were shrinking. Their systems were being pulled into Earth's growing network of trade, slowly losing independence. They blamed the humans, and they wanted to send a message. They called themselves the Coalition of Balance, a name that meant nothing but made them feel important. One of their leaders, a reptilian tactician named Heskar, proposed a test. Let us kidnap one of their ambassadors, he said. Show them they are not untouchable. Some laughed. Some hesitated. But none of them had ever seen Earth. None of them had ever looked into a human's eyes and felt that deep, patient cold behind the kindness. So they agreed. The target was Ambassador Elias Ford, stationed on the neutral station of Zerith Prime, a peaceful place with no weapons, no armies. Perfect for a clean operation. The plan was fast, clinical. They drugged the air system in his quarters. His guards collapsed. Elias was taken in seconds. Gone before alarms could ring. Gone before alarms could ring. They moved him to a hidden base in a nearby nebula. No signals in or out. No ships tracked. No trace. Perfect. The coalition released no demands. They didn't want ransom. They didn't want war. They just wanted the galaxy to know humans could be hurt. But within hours of his disappearance, Earth responded. Not with panic. Not with rage. With quiet. Every human channel across council space went dark. No broadcasts, no messages, no updates. Human embassies shut their doors. Trade stopped. Even civilian transport ships rerouted themselves away from non-human stations. The galaxy held its breath. Then the lights above the coalition base went out. No one saw ships arrive. No sensors detected movement. But one by one, systems began to fail. Gravity, power, communications. The guards began to vanish. Not in a flash, not in a fight. Just gone. They checked cameras. Nothing. They checked sensors. Blank. One by one, members of the coalition tried to escape. Some ran for hangars. Some sealed themselves in control rooms. No one got out. Only one door opened. The door to Elias Ford's cell. He stepped out calmly. Not a bruise on him. His suit clean. His eyes sharper than before. He walked through the halls as if guided by invisible hands. Lights flickered behind him. Shadows shifted. And those few captors who remained froze in place. Not by force. By fear. They saw something walking behind Elias. They didn't know what. Not a person. Not a shape. A feeling. A presence. A thing that didn't speak or move but whispered inside their minds. You broke the rules. Now you see what was never meant to be seen. Elias returned to council space hours later. Alone. The coalition base gone. No wreckage. No debris. Just a scar in the nebula. And a signal. One message on repeat. Do not mistake patience for weakness. Do not mistake diplomacy for mercy. Do not touch what you do not understand. The message wasn't signed, but no one had to guess. The council held a closed-door meeting that lasted 3 days. Security protocols changed. Trade rules were updated. Every known species, even ancient rivals, quietly erased their plans involving Earth. For the first time, the galaxy truly saw the humans. Not the smiling diplomats, not the charming traders, but the things behind the curtain. The handlers. The watchers. The ones who had waited centuries for first contact, not to make friends, but to learn the game. To study every piece. To master every player. And now, they weren't hiding anymore. They were showing pieces, little by little. Not enough to start a war. Just enough to remind everyone. The illusion was theirs to control. And when they broke it, even a little, the galaxy trembled. Because they hadn't even raised their voices yet. Asterisk. The truth was always there. In their eyes. In their silence. In the way they smiled when others threatened them. And the way they listened when others bragged. The truth was written into their movements, carved into their history, and buried beneath layers of politeness and calm. But no one in the galaxy had ever stopped to ask the real question. Why are the humans like this? Why did a species, so young and small in the grand age of stars, speak like diplomats but move like hunters? Why did their weapons stay hidden while their allies multiplied? Why did they show kindness like an offering, but never revealed what they were keeping in the dark? The question lingered in the minds of many, but most were too afraid to ask. All, except one. His name was Archivist Sarin of the Mrelek. Species, old, soft-skinned, and gentle by nature. He had spent centuries gathering records from fallen empires, dead languages, and broken planets. He didn't fear the humans. Not at first. He only wanted to understand. So he began with Earth's public records. Their history files, their news archives. The humans, being proud of their growth, had shared much of it with the council. But the more Tsarin read, the more disturbed he became. He saw a world that had not just survived war, it had grown. Through it, empires rising, falling, rising again. A species that had fought each other longer than it had known peace. A planet where weather could kill, predators could hunt from above. And survival meant thinking 10 steps ahead, or dying your sleep. He read about wars that lasted 100 years. Famine, where millions died quietly, and those who lived learned not to waste. Plagues, which turned cities into graves. Revolutions, where the weak destroyed the powerful, not with strength, but with fire, trickery, and persistence. And then he read about progress, how the same species that burned cities could build machines that touched the stars, how they could love as fiercely as they hated. How they could forgive, but never forget. Sarin dug deeper. He found records of human strategy. Old wars on Earth where generals won battles not by fighting, but by making their enemies think they were already defeated. He found studies on human body language, on their ability to lie with a straight face, to read emotion from a glance, to sense danger even when nothing seemed wrong. He began connecting dots, and what formed was not a culture, not a nation, not even a species. What formed was a pattern, something designed by pain, by fear, by endless struggle. Not evil, not cruel, but something built for survival at all costs. He realized then, humans did not learn diplomacy to make friends. They learned it to keep threats from attacking first. They smiled not to comfort others, but to control the room. They offered peace not because they needed help, but because peace allowed them to study everyone else without drawing fire. And when they went to war, they didn't march, they didn't roar. They appeared, did what had to be done, and disappeared again. Efficient, final, cold. Sarin sat in silence for hours after finishing his report. He felt like he had just seen something sacred, or something dangerous enough to become legend. He titled the report, "The Human Pattern, Apex Evolution in Diplomacy Form." But when he tried to publish it to the council library, the system rejected the upload. He tried again. Locked. He sent a private copy to his species high scholars. It never arrived. Instead, that night, he received a message. It came on an old analog frequency. No signature. No encryption. Just a voice. Human. Male. Calm. "Thank you, Archivist, for seeing us clearly. But the galaxy is not ready for that truth. You may keep what you know. Just don't try to make others believe it." The message ended. No threat, just a fact. The next day, Sarin erased his notes. He told his students the research was flawed. He stopped speaking about humans altogether. And in the council, the whispers returned. Not about Earth's weapons, not about its power, but about what kind of world creates a species like that. A world that rewards patience over strength. A world where threats don't roar. They watch. Where the deadliest creatures don't run or fight. They wait and adapt. And survive. By pretending they are just like everyone else. The council began to see it now. In every meeting. In every soft-spoken sentence. In every friendly deal signed with Earth. The humans were never lying. They were just never telling the full truth. Because the truth wasn't about now. It was about what comes next. And what comes next would not be a surprise to the humans. It would be the plan all along. Asterisk. In the beginning, they thought humans had come for peace. In the middle, they feared humans might come for war. In the end, the truth was much simpler. The humans had come for order. The council chamber was never this full. Representatives of all 218 active species were present, even the ancient ones who hadn't spoken aloud in a century. The air was heavy. The lights dimmed. Eyes shimmered in a dozen colors. Hearts beat faster in 100 different ways, because today something was about to change, and they all knew. The change would wear a human face. At the center of the chamber, the humans stood, calm, silent. Ambassador Raina Cole stepped forward once more, as she had done when Earth first entered the council. But this time, there were no smiles, no soft words, no handshakes. Just truth. Our species came in peace, she said, her voice steady, unmoved by the weight of the room. And for a while that was true. We observed, we adapted. We warned. She turned slightly, eyes meeting those of the oldest council members. You didn't listen. Or perhaps you simply didn't understand. A projection appeared in the air. Slowly spinning dot, it was a map. A full tactical layout of every council power structure, military fleets, trade routes, communications nodes, election networks, hidden stations, even unregistered AI cores. Gasps filled the chamber. How? One voice croaked. Reyna ignored it. We've known the shape of your galaxy for years. You invited us in. And while you smiled at our diplomats, you never saw the ones who didn't wear badges. The map zoomed out. A second overlay appeared. Earth's. Influence web. Lines of trade. Shadows of alliance. Debt strings. Cultural pressures. Intelligence loops. Silent control over almost every known system. This wasn't conquest. This was checkmate. You built the council to protect balance, Reyna said. But balance is a lie. Every system has a center. Every machine has a core. She paused, and now that center is Earth. A long silence followed. Some tried to speak. Others simply sat, numb. The truth wasn't just hard to hear. It was impossible to unsee. One general from the Urvathi Alliance stood, trembling. Are you threatening us? Reyna turned toward him. No, she said. We passed the stage of threats years ago. This is not a demand. She lifted her hand. A signal was sent. Instantly, across the galaxy, everything paused. Every trade route, every satellite, every council. Mainframe. Ships halted mid-flight. Markets froze. AI. Networks blinked into standby. Power systems dimmed. Only essential systems remained running, and all of them now displayed one quiet message. Apex Protocol. Active. All systems temporarily held under Earth command. This is not an attack. This is stabilization. The chamber shook, not physically, but emotionally. No weapons had fired. No blood had spilled. But the galaxy had fallen. With one sentence. With one plan. With one protocol. Ambassador Reyna Cole looked around. You gave us power willingly, piece by piece. In trade, in treaties, in weakness. And we took it, silently, because we don't need to rule your worlds. She stepped down from the platform. We just need to make sure none of you ruin them. The chamber was silent. No resistance came. No protests. Because deep down, every species knew this was mercy. If the humans had wanted to crush them, they already would have. Instead, they offered a new kind of rule. No chains. No banners. No anthem. Just structure. Just survival. Just order. Later that day, when the council voted on the new Galactic Integration Charter, written entirely by human minds, the vote passed unanimously, not because they were forced, but because for the first time in centuries, things finally made sense. The pirates were gone. The chaos had stopped. The borders were stable. The wars, the spying, the manipulation ended not with fire, but with silence. And in that silence, peace took root. Real peace, not built on trust, on the fear of what would happen if humans ever stopped pretending to be nice. In the cycles that followed, children would ask their elders, were the humans monsters? And the wisest would always say the same thing. No, they were something worse. Then what were they? The elders would pause and speak the truth. They were the final evolution of survival. They were what comes after war, after empire, after pride. They were the predators that learned how to wear the skin of diplomats. And while we danced in politics and power, they were writing the ending. And now, the galaxy lives in that ending, a quiet one, a cold one, but not a cruel one, because Earth didn't want to rule with fear. They ruled with something far more dangerous. Understanding. And they understood everyone. Before anyone even understood them.